is another Tron movie on the way. So take a look at it. So Disney released a trailer. It's leaked online. I did take a look at it. By now, probably by the time I post this, the actual trailer will be available. So, yeah. And of course, Jared Leto will be playing the main character and all that. But it's kind of like he's an alien guy, so he might be able to. So don't worry. I never really had that much hatred for the guy. A lot of people just utterly cannot stand him. But, you know, it is what it is. One of the things about it is 9 Inch Nails will be doing the musical score for it. And at first I was thinking, well, you know, it kind of made sense that Daft Punk did the last one, the second one, because they're more akin to techno stuff. But then so is 9 Inch Nails. But also listening to it and the concept of this film kind of makes sense as it crosses both worlds, the digital and the real world, which is the deal here. And initially when I heard the details of it, I assumed that, oh, they really can't afford to do too much of that digital world stuff. It would be cheaper to tape it in real world, you know, on the streets of LA or whatever. I don't know if that's where it takes place, but nevertheless, that sort of thing. However, after the original Tron, which is a human is transported into the digital world, what would be the follow-up? Well, you could do the opposite, where one of those entities from that world comes into the real world. Now, there's problems with that about how you do it, which they didn't address in the second one, even though it happens there as well. And the whole plot was a whole army of them was going to invade the real world and all this sort of thing. And how? You know? And the problem is the substance of which you form an organic body for them. When it came to Jeff Bridges' character Flynn and then his son, well, they're both human beings. They get transported in there, similar to the transporter in Star Trek, you know, and transform into the electrical energy that is what is composed of these, I don't know, AI beings in the digital world. And then when restored, well, it's the same stuff he was made of that he comes out at. The disturbing thing about it is you have to logically conclude that Flynn's son escapes, or restored to his true self, but his digital character girlfriend comes with him, but she was never human. Now she is. How does that happen? What is the organic matter she's composed of? And the only other organic matter was his father, who seemingly died in the movie. There's a spoiler in the trailer. That appears not to be the case if they're connected at all. So that's kind of disgusting. They probably just didn't even think about it, but it's like, well, how does that happen? If they can just create and transmute the energy they're composed of into organic matter, then game over, literally. The video game characters are gods. They can do anything. And a lot of that is just going to be ignored, I suspect, just to have the pizzazz of whatever mission this Ares character is on. And I don't know. And it keeps being called Tron, but the character of Tron is just greatly diminished. Even in the first one, and now in the second one, he was barely there. And then in this one, it's all going to be about this Ares guy. Maybe they'll say he's actually the son of Tron. Well, maybe they have a way of reproducing. And he's on this mission into the real world, but there's scenes of them with the light cycles and the like functioning as they would in the video game world in the real world, so it's like, well, how are you doing that? And what powers that and all that? They should do the due diligence of explaining it. Otherwise, well, it's just magic. Well, if this was a movie set in magic and wizards and all that, you'd be fine. But it's not. It's a sci-fi concept. And, You really got to think that through. So there's Ares' ass. But they're basically, yeah, the synopsis teases that the film follows a highly sophisticated program, Ares, who is sent from the digital world into the real world on a dangerous mission, marking mankind's first encounter with AI being. Well, it's not. Obviously, Flynn did. And it's not a reboot. Jeff Bridges is in the film. And so that happened. And then, of course, his son. And then his son escaped back into the real world with his digital girlfriend. So she would be the first one of them to cross over. Unless, again, it's just going to ignore the second one because it, it didn't do very well. There was a cartoon series based off of it, but that ended. I don't know that it, culminated in anything. The failure of the Tron reboot led to the purchase of Star Wars and Lucasfilm because they wanted some kind of franchise like this, a boy brand, if you will. And then, well, look what they did. So this is one of their own. This is an original. That was a Disney film way back when. And the second one just doesn't hold a candle to it. It was groundbreaking, and it didn't do well. But, it develops a cult status, and it was fascinating to look at and everything. And an interesting thing of a twist on gods and their mortal creations and whatnot, whereas Flynn finds himself stumbling in, and he's seen as a god amongst them when they realize he's a user, and they're all in awe of him and stuff like that. That sort of thing. It had some cool concepts to it and all that. And then the follow-up, it stumbled almost immediately. That was the early days of the CGI de-aging, certainly of Jeff Bridges. But I think they could have pulled it off had they done that same CGI effect to everybody else who was in the digital world. I guess it would have been too expensive, perhaps. But there, it wouldn't be so jarring of the younger-looking Jeff Bridges in there. Because in the original movie, they were all really in black and white, and the color was all added later by their animation at the time. And I would have thought, since it posited that it was locked in that arcade, it had no connection to the internet or anything like that. So why it was so different, unless you have to conclude that Flynn did that himself, and how they all looked, all modernized and everything. And I guess that would have to be the explanation for it. But it would have been cool if they had adapted a bit more of the look and style of the original movie. And then you could progress from that, And it probably would have been better for more of a plot that Clue was trying to connect to the outside world to have more influence over it and that kind of thing. And perhaps seek a way to become real and that kind of thing. But they didn't really bother with that. So odds are they won't really hear. I think this will just be, hey, just hurry and throw an adventure. Leto's character, there's a woman he meets, so that'll be the love interest and all that. And I don't know, it can have some big reveal, maybe. But anyway, I'll take a look at it. But pretty dubious on his chances. But you never know. First time for everything, and maybe it'll be okay. I don't think there'll be anything brilliant here. But the basic things, if you just try, even though it's just a make-believe something, if you give a credible explanation for the abilities for this to happen, then there you are. Matrix did it right, where you're basically plugged into a virtual reality type thing, and it has an impact on you. It's similar to, hey, if you die in a dream, do you die in real life? And some people believe you do, and this sort of thing. If you don't wake up in time, so a similar thing there for that. But they're still living in the real world. Their bodies is laying in the chair, hooked up to this, Matrix world, and of course the programs become sentient and all that. But they're not organic beings. So it'd be like how Mr. Smith jumped into that other guy's mind, and took him over. Then I suppose technically they could do that here, where Ares is overtaking some poor bastard. which wouldn't make him much of a hero because that poor guy gets destroyed. But I think they'll just say it's like magic, you know. But you should do the due diligence for that. But anyway, we'll see what happens with it. But the 9 Inch Nails, it'll probably be a good score, even if you don't like the movie, you know. So it might be, you know. But since it does go from the two different worlds, sort of the techno influence, and then there are other styles of 9 Inch Nails music, would probably work very fittingly for it. So, you know, there you go. Tron Ares.